Hello and welcome to the St. Louis Green Business Challenge weekly virtual brown bag seminar series. I'm Jean Ponzi, Challenge Manager here in St. Louis, Missouri, and it will be my pleasure today to present a new employee engagement organizational structure and what they are doing from our colleagues at Ameren, Missouri. SERG, electricity pun there, Sustainability Employee Resource Group. As we always do, we acknowledge and sincerely thank our sponsors at the beginning of each of these programs. Thank you, Graybar, presenting sponsor of the challenge since the program launched in 2010. Powerful. Thanks to our sustaining sponsors, Ameren, Missouri, Ride Finders, and Citizens for Modern Transit. Thanks to support for our Green Cities Challenge participants, which comes from 1STL, our regional sustainability plan, Madison County, Illinois, supporting the communities in their jurisdiction, and the St. Louis Metro chapter, Missouri and Illinois chapters of the American Planning Association, APA, supporting anything having to do with reducing, reusing, and recycling. Oops, come back there, you. We have the St. Louis Jefferson Solid Waste Management District and Missouri Department of Natural Resources to thank. Coming up in the next two editions of Virtual Brown Bag. Next week, we will welcome Ameren, Missouri back again to present a new body of, or update us on EV charging station incentives. Charge Ahead is the name of this program that is geared to support the installation of electric vehicle charging stations for companies, for nonprofits, for multifamily buildings, and for municipal locations. On August 12th, your challenge team will give a presentation of a new compilation that we have of options for environmental action and community service. Getting outside, being of service, providing person power and opportunities for engagement for employee groups that will, of course, respect health and safety protocols. Welcome your proposals for presentations into this virtual brown bag series, which will be running throughout this year. On August 17th, the challenge will be featured in a program celebrating Sustainability Excellence Award winners honored by AAM, the American Alliance of Museums. The St. Louis Green Business Challenge was recognized this year in the programs category. And on that program on August 18th, it will be my honor to represent our collective work in a program with MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art, and the Burke Natural History Museum in Seattle. The program runs for 90 minutes, noon to 1:30. It will be on Zoom. The challenge portion of the program will take place from 11:28 until approximately 11:48. So you can register, and if you just want to watch the challenge part, you can. But the MoMA part and the Burke part will be really good too. And we will circulate a link to this program once it's made available after the live event. So we could all root for what we're doing, working on this presentation. We are aiming to send the registration link for this special hour-long virtual brown bag edition on August 19th. We've been updating our registration process for more efficiency for you and for us. So in early next week's Challenge e-News, look for a link to register for Roots of Success, resources for growing green collar jobs from the nonprofit Roots of Success, which is based in the Bay Area and which has been working with groups around the country using an environmental literacy curriculum that teaches sustainability and thinking and practice to people as it teaches them job skills in areas like waste management, water quality protection, energy efficiency, and urban food production and sustainable landscaping. Founder of Roots of Success, Dr. Raquel Pinderhughes from San Francisco State University will be our guest speaker, along with Grady Mitchell, who coordinates Roots of Success in prisons across the US, and Kate Gannon from the Chicago Botanic Garden, who has been using Roots of Success in the Windy City Harvest urban farming program at Chicago Botanic Garden for 10 years. This is an opportunity for us to potentially tap into this resource in advocating for and partnering to advance the cause of green collar jobs in St. Louis. I'm looking forward to presenting this to our community as a whole with a variety of partners. So today from Ameren, Missouri, it's my pleasure now to welcome Jordan Blackhurst. Her working title is Leadership and Organizational Effectiveness Consultant, and she is on the leadership team for Sustainability Employee Resource Group, SERG, at Ameren. Jordan, welcome. Take it away.
Thank you, Jean. Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen here. Can everybody see this okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. And it looks like we have a pretty small group. I see a few people from Ameren on the call who are also a part of the leadership team and have played an instrumental role in getting this employee resource group off the ground. And so at any point in time, Morgan, Amanda, Shelby, if you want to add any context, give a little bit more color to the conversation, feel free to jump in and just treat this as an informal discussion. As I work through these slides, if you have questions, other members on the call, feel free to put them in the chat or just come off of mute and ask those questions, and happy to answer them as we work through the content. So as Jean announced, we are talking today about Ameren's Sustainability Employee Resource Group, also known as SERG. Prior to getting into what SERG is all about, our mission and vision, I wanted to start with a little bit of historical context here. Back in September 2019, we started the initial benchmarking and research on creating a sustainability employee resource group. And so we looked at what the research had been done and how do we really, what's the best way to position this group? How are other groups, how have they been successful? How have they gotten leadership buy-in? What ways do they provide value to the organization? As well as looking at other organizations to determine what sustainability or environmental or green employee resource groups that they have. And we actually made our initial request to our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Department for this employee resource group dating back in September 2019. At that point in time, the organization wasn't quite ready to move with it. But since then, there's been a lot of things that have happened that have really led us to where we are today. And one of those initial items was an idea hack that we had at Ameren. This is a 2-day event where people come across the organization. They are in teams. They spend 48 hours developing and presenting an idea. So think kind of Shark Tank. Myself and several other members created an idea around a zero waste break room, and we presented this idea. And in November, we actually won the Moonshot Award for that idea. And this was pretty pivotal in this Sustainability Employee Resource Group because it generated a lot of attention and excitement from our coworkers and other leaders, and really was the foundation then for giving people a little bit more perspective of what type of work a Sustainability Employee Resource Group could do and the value that it could bring to the organization. So following that event, we started a pilot in January 2020. We actually had 2 pilots lined up, as well as then an actual kickoff of the zero waste break room for 2020. But as everybody on this call knows, COVID occurred shortly after this, and so those plans were put on pause. So we had that event that took place, and then we had a monthly innovation event that took place in March, right before we left the organization due to COVID. Again, it was another opportunity where the organization was able to see how many people had interest in sustainability, where people had questions, what did they want to learn, and just overall excitement about sustainability. We had over 100 attendees at this event, and following that event, Gwen Mizell, our Officer of Sustainability and Electrification, brought it up again to our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion team and said, I really would like to revisit this idea. I want something, and it's the space for leaders to connect, coworkers to connect, and talk about these things and bring forward ideas and make a positive impact within the organization and outside of the organization in the sustainability space. And so following that event, she was, yet another advocate and supporter of ours in getting this group off the ground. And so in October of 2020, we got the official approval that we could move forward on this employee resource group. And then we officially launched in June. So that's the events that led up to this. And I think it's important for those of you that are on the call that maybe you don't have a sustainability or a green or an environmental resource group and you're wanting to start one. This really highlights the criticality of leadership buy-in, coworker support, and really bringing people along the journey prior to execution. All right, so then SERG, our employee resource group, our mission really is to educate coworkers, provide them with the resources and the tools so that they can not only live sustainably personally, but they can also bring in those same values to the work that they do every day at Ameren. And then our vision is that when people think of Ameren, they think of an organization that is encouraging and promoting socially conscious behaviors and habits, not just by our coworkers, but also by our customers and the communities that we serve. It was really important that we anchored our mission and our vision to Ameren's strategy and the work that we're doing in a way that we're staying very closely aligned, but we're also helping to push the envelope in a positive way and use that as a launching pad to create culture change within the organization. All right, our leadership team and membership status. So I had mentioned that we launched in June. So we had our membership drive. It started, I want to say, with the second or third week of June. We ran that for about 3 weeks. And so as of a few days ago, we had up to 156 members. A pretty good distribution across our various segments too. So that's something Jean, I know when working with Ameren, it's typically Ameren, Missouri, but our employee resource group actually expands across our whole enterprise. So we are working with coworkers and leaders in Illinois and Missouri, transmission, and our business and corporate services team. We have the business advisory support from Mary Hager. She's a senior vice president of customer experience in Illinois. And then we have Jonathan Shade, who is a director and assistant counsel, general counsel in BNCS, but a lot of the work that he does is actually tied to our ESG metrics and what we share with our investors. So we have a good representation in terms of business support. So Gwen, sustainability vice president, Mary sits in Illinois, Jonathan tied to our ESG metrics. And then same thing with our officer team and leadership team of SERG. You'll see here, I won't run through the full list, but we have coworkers across the organization. All of these coworkers either work in sustainability or are tied to sustainability in some way within their professional work, or they have a personal passion and interest in this work, which really is nice because it brings both the personal and the professional to this group, and just a lot of general excitement and engagement, which I think will go a long way in ensuring that we're able to execute on a lot of events and bringing value to the organization. We had our first membership meeting at the beginning of July, and where we had 110 members join as well. And so, like I said, right out of the gate, a lot of interest and engagement from the organization. So at Ameren, our employee resource groups, they all participate in a strategic planning session every year. Since we kicked off at the middle of the year, we hadn't yet participated in that more formal planning process, but we did define some goals for 2021 that we wanted to make sure that we were able to achieve with the remainder of the 6 months that we had. You'll see that our first goal was gain 175 members and by the end of 2021. So we were really pleased to see that less than a month in, we have already almost achieved our goal. Engagement and participation is really important to us, that we're not just measuring the number of members, but that people are actively participating and getting engaged with the events that we're hosting and that we're collaborating and partnering with other individuals on as well. Activity establishment, we have already surpassed having just one activity, and we've started defining these throughout the year. One thing that we did want to commit to, though, was that we had a sustainable speaker series where we touched on 5 topics that we knew were top of mind for our coworkers. So when we had initially kicked off SERG and were gaining interest, we had asked our coworkers to identify several items that they're interested in. And we align most of those topics to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So that's what you see in the parentheses, SDG. And then we had a few other items that we added to that list as well. And so here you can see what is most top of mind for our coworkers that completed that survey. And so what we want to do is throughout this year, the remainder of the 6 months of this year, ensure that we're providing, at least at a foundational level, some education and content on those topics. Community engagement and partnerships. Again, it's just as important to us that we have an external presence as we do have an internal presence with our coworkers. And we want to be really thoughtful about the organizations that we engage with and become really have strong relationships with and become partners with, whether it's through education, whether it's through financial support, or it is through volunteering. So there's different ways in which we see ourselves interacting with these 1 to 2 external organizations, but we would like to also ensure that we're identifying the organizations in both states, because our states are slightly different in terms of the way that they operate. And we also, again, just want to make sure that we're being, very conscious of evenly distributing our support into our service territory. And then these last 2 here are more internal facing goals. So internal business and strategic support. We want to make sure that we are not just an employee resource group where we are educating people on content around sustainability, but that we're also giving back to the organization in a way that's directly tied to our strategy. And so this goal here is identifying, 1 or more projects or events where the members of our group can directly support something that we're doing in the business. And then lastly here, again, but what we want to do is encourage people to make behavior changes, whether that's personally or professionally in the work that they do. And so demonstrating and showcasing the individuals or the teams that have already demonstrated those behaviors is a way to just recognize and encourage other coworkers to engage in sustainability. All right. So just a little bit about the launch preparation that led up to our kickoff and all the work that you just saw in the previous slides. We started a series of stakeholder meetings back in November. So once we got that formal approval of our diversity, equity, and inclusion team that we can move forward, we started meeting with various parties that we thought would like to be involved or should be aware of the effort. So for example, we formally met with DE&I, we learned more about what their expectations were of a group like this. Something that would be important, or I think you might be interested, is that traditionally at Ameren, our employee resource groups are around a particular demographic. This is the first that is more business focused. So if there was a differentiation, if Ameren differentiated between employee resource groups and business resource groups, this would fall under the business resource group category. So that was new for the organization to work through with us, and how this might be a little bit different than some of our traditional employee resource groups. And then we had a group of coworkers that we kind of dating back to that initial idea hack that had been in touch over the years and slowly, has grown of individuals that have an interest in sustainability. And so we pulled that group together in December and we said, hey, we have this opportunity. Is this something you'd be interested in supporting the launch of? And then lastly, of course, making sure that we're closely tied to our internal sustainability team. Again, as I had previously mentioned, not only do we want to stay, aligned to Ameren's overall strategy, but we want to make sure that we're providing value above and beyond even what our internal team is doing, so that we're supporting and helping the efforts that they already have underway. In January, we identified an interim leadership team, that the team you saw on the slides. We then created a charter, so it really outlined who was responsible for what. That's where we defined our mission and our vision statement. We worked through a strategic planning workbook where we ultimately landed on the goals that you saw previously. And then in May, we began designing our SharePoint. So that's our primary way for us to get information out to our coworkers, as well as our communication plan. And our communication plan included Yammer, so internal social media sites, so Yammer, SharePoint, different coworker communications that Ameren sends out on a regular basis, as well as our internal intranet. So pretty robust communications that went out. We also had a number of leaders who were in support of this ERG, or that we requested or asked that based on our network if they would share the information. So we had a good number of senior leaders also sharing this out to our coworker base. And then we launched our first meeting at the beginning of July. And that meeting was, we prepared a variety of content. We wanted it to be educational, but we also wanted it to be interactive and engaging. And so what we started with was a high level view of our strategy and how Ameren thinks about sustainability. How do we define it? We moved into an activity based on the book Project Drawdown. So it was a bit of a way to just get the group thinking about, when we say sustainability, it can mean a lot of things. And to some people that might be clean energy, and to other people that might be food waste. So we use that as an introduction. We did team introductions or leadership team introductions, where we also shared what it meant for us. What does sustainability mean for us? How do we practice it? And then which generated a lot of conversation in the chat, where we had members and coworkers talking about things from EVs to composting to vegetarian recipes. So again, just a lot of engagement from our coworkers, and you can tell that it's people want to talk about this, and people have a variety of interest. And so it'll be exciting to see how we can play to their interest over the next several months. And just create a broader, coworker base and networking base to have these conversations. And so then what's coming next for SERG? I just included one event here just to give you a sample of the types of things that we'll be doing to engage our coworkers. So we just kicked off a scavenger hunt. And so what we did was we identified a number of items that could be things that you find at home. They could be things that you just see outdoors that tie to sustainability in some way, or Ameren. And then we had people submit their interest, and we divided people into teams. And so it's a good way for people also to connect with others across the organization. But they will then participate in this virtual scavenger hunt that hopefully is educational, and that it raises up things to people that maybe they didn't think of would fall under the category of sustainability, or it leads them to look into something that's new or different that they haven't yet experienced. So an educational tool, but also a networking opportunity to get people familiar again with sustainability concepts and coworkers that are interested in this as a way to kick off our employee resource group. And then of course, Jean, I know you've been in conversations with Jillian, and we will be having a series of biodiversity conversations as well. So several events in the works, and then this is currently what we're working on today. I will pause there, see if anybody has any questions.
Thanks, Jordan. The thoughtfulness and the structure and the networking that is going into SERG planning and organization. First of all, I think it stands to keep this engagement structure going for a long period of time, which is something that can fall away as leadership changes. Also, it's clearly to me in accord with Ameren's business model and with Ameren's larger sustainability goals. So, might not be as complex a formation process in another organization, but this is a mother lode in my perception of structuring and thoughtfulness and planning. And yeah, I will get to give 2 biodiversity talks, and my colleague Allison Brown, she's our invasive species coordinator, will be giving a talk about, I'll be doing mosquitoes and monarchs, protect the pollinators and control the pests, and invasive, native, exotic, a comparison of those 3 kinds of plant choices. And then Allie will do a presentation specifically on invasive species, what they are and how to control them. And that will be in, I believe, August, September, and October, respectively. So we're thrilled about getting to do that. Questions for Jordan? What were some of what are some of the other resource groups that exist within Ameren, Jordan?
Sure. So we have a Women Influencing Success in Energy Employee Resource Group, so WISE. We have a Veterans Resource Group. We have a Merge. So Morgan, who's on the call, she's also a member of Merge, which is a multi-generational employee resource group that has a sub-chapter called LEAP. Morgan, you might have to, I see you in the chat, remind me what LEAP stands for. But I want to say it's, or maybe early career focus. And then we have resource groups for Hispanic and Latino individuals, Black individuals, anybody else from Ameren's on the call. If I'm forgetting any, let me know.
We have Hachi.
Yeah, so we have a variety of groups. We have another one as well for individuals with various abilities. And I think,
would you just say a little bit more, because the unique nature of business-focused engagement here, are there options on the docket, actions on the docket for business-focused engagement that you're already working with?
good question. So as soon as we launched SERG, we had our director of energy efficiency in Missouri. And this is just an example. He immediately reached out, connected us with his team, and wanted to set up time to discuss how could we help with their energy efficiency efforts and communicating those, not just to coworkers, but also customers. We are meeting in August, so we haven't met yet, but a lot of interest there on how we can support energy efficiency. And then another example, every August or every year, August timeframe, WISE, the Women's Influencing Success in Energy Employee Resource Group, host a Girls Get Into Energy Day. And that day is for young women, think ages like 11 to 19. They traditionally would come to Ameren and we would host them and learn about different areas of STEM. Today, or this year, it'll obviously be virtual. But they also reached out to us and said, is there something that you can do as a part of this session that would help just educate people very early on, in their life on sustainability and make it fun, have some creative activity. So those are two examples that come to mind quickly in terms of how we're giving back to the business or connecting in a way that might be a little bit different than previously.
Mm-hmm. Great. And wow, congratulations on exceeding that sign-up goal. Your goal was 150 in the first year, and mid-year you're at 155 members.
Yeah, yes. We and our goal and not only started when we launched in June too. So just a few weeks, and every day I see the emails coming through on our automatic notification of people that are signing up. So really excited. I think we need to lift our goal a little bit, maybe double it. Say we need 400 by the end of the year.
Yeah, give yourself a big surge. What are the mechanisms that you use to communicate internally?
Mm-hmm. So we have our SERG email account. So just very basic email. We also have what we call our Coworker Connect. That's our kind of main intranet that you can go to at any point in time. There's typically advertisements across the organizations, different stories, things that they feature. So we set up several communications to be featured on our Coworker Connect page. We also at Ameren have an Ameren, it's called AOL. It's something that comes out weekly, and I think it stands for Ameren Online. So we were in those communications as well. And then we did, like I mentioned, we in that leadership support that I had mentioned earlier, where they would connect out and share. We didn't just go to leadership and ask them just to share, verbally. We went as far as prepping emails for them to use, so that we made it really easy for people to be able to get the word out. We created just an email template as well as an overview document that they could extend to others as well.
And are there ways that Ameren employees involved in SERG can circulate resources and information that they find or they get on social media into your communications network? I know that Ameren takes very great care to maintain communication security and IT networking security. And so much happens on social media that that is, opportunities for engagement and knowledge. How do you interface with that?
Yep, good question. One of the things in our membership meeting that coworkers had said they were interested in having is some sort of forum, whether it's specific to a topic or it's just a space that they can have additional discussions to share resources, whether it's things like a recipe or perhaps even resources like you just mentioned. So it's something we're still working on. Oh yeah, Morgan in the chat, we have a SharePoint specific to SERG as well, which we can connect to our internal Yammer. So something that we had discussed as a team that we want to figure out is how do we create that more interactive space where people can share in real time, whether it's an article or it's that they have a question. So we haven't figured it out yet, but we're definitely thinking about it and how can we do that and create that space. It made me think when you just asked that though, I think that you can even create LinkedIn groups for specific people. And some people might be interested in having a LinkedIn group that's specific to SERG so that they can share resources that they find on at least LinkedIn.
Yes, we have a new challenge LinkedIn group that was set up by a sustainability specialist on our team, Jandy Rose, this spring. So we've been sending links to that in our weekly e-news. Yeah, that is another option. Well, we're at time for this virtual brown bag session. I want to thank SERG especially for your enthusiastic reception of the biodiversity program series proposal, seeing how specific and how focused your program planning is. So I'm really glad that we could fit into that. I'm looking forward to those interactions.
Yes, we are excited too.
And thanks to everyone who joined the call today, joined the program. We had representatives here from Ameren, of course, from Elsevier, from Bethesda Health, from Missouri Botanical Garden, and from BlackRock Consulting. And we record, as you know, these sessions, and then we will archive the links and share links to view them on demand with the rest of the challenge. Jordan Blackhurst and everyone on the SERG team, thank you so much for presenting to us today and for the fine work you're doing to engage your employees with green stuff.
Yes, thank you so much.
Stay well, everyone. Stay cool. Tomorrow, it's going to be a lot cooler. We're very, very fortunate in that. From the St. Louis Green Business Challenge, I'm Jean Ponzi. Thanks.